Oh, you don't need to use the microphone. Maybe it's- right about here. Oh my God.
Lindenwood, right? Lindenwood?
Lindenwood, yes.
Finishing.
Okay, judges, we have Lindenwood University here, ready to speak to you about crossing case competition. Take it away.
Good afternoon, judges. So this was kind of a tough question, because it deals with prioritizing some groups over other groups, and that can always get dicey. But we decided in this case that, high net worth individuals should be able to purchase their place to skip the line in immigration with some stipulations. So in terms of CBI, we didn't really have that defined for us. But if we were going to use a definition of that, it would be an individual who is high net worth and bringing business into the United States, not just simply paying for their citizenship. Based off of that, I think it's a win-win for the other immigrants that are wanting to come as well, because if you bring a business into the United States, then you can create more job opportunities. And if there is an excess demand for workers, based on that, then more immigrants can come to fill those jobs. So it can work out that way. It can also work out just the people that are already here filling those jobs. That's the gist of our position.
Yeah, and then this is go a little bit more like in the economic aspect of it. We would, like we mentioned, we expect them to be bringing business into the US economy. We don't necessarily have specific ways we expect them to do that. They don't necessarily have to bring their factories from a different country to our country. We expect to see tangible results from them being allowed to skip the line to purchase their citizenship, basically. We also do recognize that there are some complications or stipulations that we'd like to state with this. One of which would be like in emergency situations, we would still give priority to like refugees who would need to come into our country. If something like that was happening where we were taking in refugees, they would not be able to skip the line and like go in front of them. So they still become like helping where we would need to help. And then for our last stipulation, where you would like to go into that for you.
For the stipulation, we noticed that this was kind of like a vulnerable contract in our side. In any case, we give them the citizenship and they don't fulfill their part of the promise. We cannot remove the citizenship. In that case, we want to give sort of like a trial period. We're going to give them a visa with all of the permits that a citizenship can give them. But unless they fulfill a constant amount, let's say in our case, we were discussing around 5 million because we don't know the exact economy. But if they are able to give the 5 million in a constant timeline, they're going to be able to earn the citizenship because they have to prove us that they're able to fulfill their part of the promise.
Well, that sums up our argument for it. Do you guys have any questions for us?
I think you guys did a good job outlining where you think that everybody that you mentioned benefits from this. Do you see any distinct like groups of people, however you want to cut up the pot of people, that would count as net losers on this? And how do they factor into the calculation?
It would be largely probably unskilled or uneducated workers who don't have the financial resources to bring a business over. Because depending on how many of those big players there are out there, they may never come over because people could just be skipping the line. So that is one concern. But there may be a way to negotiate, if somebody's bringing a company from another country, maybe they're able to negotiate to bring their workers with them, possibly. So that could be a possible solution.
Some losers of this equation, I see the governments from the country where this person who is investing comes from. One is because they are losing one asset, which the United States is gaining. There's a reason why they're to the United States. Maybe they are like looking for more flexible taxes. Also, there's other kind of people that like help them not wanting to pay for their citizenship. People that don't get their money in a legal way, or like traced by their governments, their country. In some way, we like how to accept that is like more politics and how, and which kind of people can like apply for this privilege of citizenship.
So I know in the presentation you said these guys are likely to bring jobs or the opportunities. What if the investment is in not necessarily jobs, but let's say in portfolios, i.e. they bring the money. Okay, but not necessarily because you can. I mean, there's no stipulation as to unless you require them to create jobs or to bring factories. I'm saying once they bring the money, they can invest them in instruments, in stocks. Now there's the money will come into the American system. I'm wondering if that would change your perception if they are not necessarily creating jobs, even though they brought the money. They didn't bring factory or industry. I don't know that.
Well, I think where our position lies is that we don't want a person to essentially just be able to buy their way into the country. They have to be offering more to the economy, their personal. They need to be stimulating the economy with more than what they just have in their bank account or what they have in their stock. Needs to be a wider and greater benefit to the country's economy as a whole. That really can't come from just a single person's person.
And the way we're looking at it, even if they do invest in, like you said, like their own portfolio into stocks, that still helps our economy. That is still putting more money into our stock market. That still gives some companies an opportunity if they buy enough stocks and things of that nature to create stock splits, and there's more stocks available to buy. Each person kind of gets more of that wealth spread out between them if they have a stock split and create more out of each one as well.
Yes, sir.
Politically, I'm a libertarian, and for me, that means try to live and vote by the non-aggression principle. Self-ownership, mutual consent in every exchange. Should I be supportive of what you propose, or is it inconsistent with my philosophy?
I think you should support what we're proposing, because at its very root, it is getting to a fair transaction. So our nation is a collective of people. It is not just one person. However, someone trying to come into the country is more of an isolated, singular person. And so the reason that they want to come into the country is because obviously there is some benefit that we can confer to them and they see appeal to. And so it's our job to figure out what is the benefit that you're conferring to me that I can say will make it worth it. And if we can come up with some agreement where you're willing to bring your business here and we're willing to have your business here, as long as you follow the agreement that we came up with, that sounds like a fair exchange to me.
I have a question. I think it's based a little bit on what I think Nestor mentioned. So Hannah mentioned that somebody brings the wealth, this country benefits us, right? But by the same token, and this might go, something Nestor said, it seems like it can harm not only the governments of the countries
Who live there, like they,
especially the poorest of the poor who live there, who can't do the thing that not only the people who can do the CVI program, but also like it costs what's for these people a substantial amount of money just to get in the regular line. Does this pose any moral issues? And if so, how do you deal with them?
I mean, that is a difficult question because that's kind of what we were debating in the beginning was, should this even be allowed? And that's why we kind of stated it would have to be bringing value to our economy. So like, is it maybe kind of a cheat code? A little bit, but at the same time, that's kind of like the way the economy works. If you're able to add benefit, because the way we look at it, they're not just benefiting the rich people in our economy, they're benefiting everybody. Like I said, if they bring their business here, that can create opportunities for other people to work in the working class to be able to benefit from that as well.
I don't want to talk to from personal experience, but I'm going to. And in my mind, it's like, but that's not what is going on right now. Like, people get residency status here in the United States, which is not citizenship. But that's just a privilege after you get your visa. But not all people that get their visa get residency status. And that mainly goes to how they get to the country. For example, I came here for study. But to me, to get a visa for working, I need to have some other old stuff like connections, being with the university to get like a good job. And that comes from like the money you have to invest in that stuff. So, yeah, it harms a lot to other, like first the poor who get into to get into the country. I still see, because in some way I'm thinking the libertarian way, that it's fair, because I think I messed up, but because there is somehow bringing some assets, some economic, they get giving money to the state, they give jobs and things, while the poorest of the poor, it's essentially their only chance to work here. So the port that is giving the poor is so little compared to the person who's reaching it.
As an immigrant, yes, there are personal obligations, there are moral obligations, but those are my personal moral obligations. When it comes to running a business, you have to think about what is best for the business. So I do think that everything around the business and the pathway to citizenship, it is a business. Everybody has to pay for their way to. We're only allowing them to pay a little bit earlier. So instead of doing the 5 years of work that they need to do to get the actual citizenship, they're going to go straight to the citizenship if they're able to pay the amount